Welcome to West Virginia Sports Connection. We're coming to you from Adelphia Sports Bar and Grill in downtown Charleston, West Virginia. I'm your host, Tracy Abdullah, and I'm joined by my co-host, three-time NFL All-Pro for the Minnesota Vikings, Carl Lee. Carl, looking sharp today, my man.
Hey, man, been ripping and running all day, so I'm just happy to get in the chair now.
You left me hanging last week, man. I had to do this thing all by myself.
I was in Minnesota. I have a camp there, so I was there to do a camp, and me and Randy did a signing in the mall and had a good time, had a great time. But I'm back now.
Well, I am very happy that you're back. And, you know, we went to your old stomping grounds, talked to some of your old friends. We did our first road show at Marshall with Mike Hamrick, the athletic director, the athletic director down there, and Chuck McGill, the assistant athletic director. And, as always, we go in with a plan and then kind of think we know what we want to talk about. And it's never really totally scripted. And then I walk in and I introduce myself to Mike, and we start talking. And he said, well, yeah, me and Carl used to play here. And I was like, wait a minute, what? Did not know that. You didn't tell me that. And so then we just scrapped all day. So let's talk about that. And so we're going to get to that soon. But I want to talk first of all about Marshall's Memorial Game. Now that's something you're a part of. I mean, you went to Marshall. You're in their Hall of Fame. You're a famous alumni. What does that game mean to you, and what does that really ceremony mean for somebody like you?
Well, Tracy, I'd have to go back to playing there and knowing of the crash, knowing of it and not really being connected to it, not knowing that Sonny Randle was on the coaching staff of East Carolina, not knowing that Coach Reggie Oliver was the quarterback for the Young Thundering Herd. I didn't know any of that. Nobody talked about it. There was no one in the community talked about the
That never came up.
It never came up. Now, we had the anniversary and we went through the whole process, but it was still distant. And it wasn't until the movie, We Are Marshall, when I went to see that, as soon as I came out of there, I was like on the phone, like calling my buddies and saying, hey, have you seen the movie? Did you know all of this? Did you know the details behind it? And everybody was like, no. And the bad thing about it was, I feel like if I'd have known it then, man, I think I would have felt different even more, the 8 games or so that we won in the 4 years, I'd have been happy about those games just based on what the history was. And now I'm so proud of being part of that legacy. I can't even put it in words. I mean, that's one of the biggest things for me is when you hear somebody say we are, like I get it. And I'm part of that, and so I think it's a great for me, it's just a great honor to be part of it.
I asked Mike last week, and I said, is that where did We Are Marshall come from? And he said it really didn't happen until the movie. So it kind of shocks me to sit here and hear you say that you didn't really know that stuff until the movie. And, when you watch the movie, if you're not moved by that movie, you just got no feelings at all.
Imagine being a guy on a We Are Marshall team and not know. And no one's saying that head coach coached the team that they were playing. And we called him Coach O. Coach O was the quarterback. I mean, if I'd have known that then, if anybody would have told me that then, I would have been like, Coach O, tell me something. Tell me something about it. Like I said, we went through the anniversary, Tracy, and it was like, we went to the graveyard, went to the gravesite, everybody said a little something and all of that, but it didn't connect. We got a game. Game's coming up tomorrow, and so it was like, okay, let's go play now. I didn't get the full effect of what I was in front of, and then I saw the movie, and man, it just changed everything.
To see a program like that, and we've seen sports tragedies, since then. Oklahoma State basketball team comes to mind, but golly, 75 people. It just decimated Huntington. It crushed it, and then to find out how quickly, I can say quickly, but it wasn't really quick that it came back. You're part of that comeback.
Yes, Sonny Randle really was, to me, he was the guy who got us there. He wasn't the one to be able to get us over the hump. But that's an internal kind of thing. But he was the guy who essentially made the difference. he was the guy, there's always someone who has to be the guy that comes in and does all the hard work, all the getting rid of this guy, bringing this guy in. There always is that guy who has to take that heat. Sonny was the perfect guy to do that. And he really is the foundation of how we could get to We Are Marshall. Without him, I just don't see how we get to the Randy Moss era and the championships and the slogan "We Play for Championships." I don't even know if we could get there without Sonny.
Man, I was just so impressed with that. But I want to talk about your relationship with Mike. Because like I said when we talked earlier, I didn't know you guys played together. He said you were Randall's first real recruit down there, and he was a senior, you were a freshman, and he showed you around.
Yeah, Mike's just this really great guy. And he, as an athletic director, he's really kind of mild and funny, and he likes to joke. I'm sure he's down. He's business, but like when I'm around him, it's always fun. He's always laughing, and he's been the best thing for Marshall University as an athletic director. There's been several that's come through, since I was there, and by far he's been able to link players to have players coming back. I've done a ton of different things with and for him just because it's him. Because there was a place where I wasn't really coming back, and when he got there, it was like, oh, Mike's there. Oh, okay. I'm coming back. What can I do?
Well, I tell you, with just meeting him, what an engaging guy.
Oh,
I mean, it's easy to see why. He said he moved away for 30 years and then came back because it was Marshall and because of his history there and the history of the school. And he was just, he made me feel right at home. He made the show so easy.
He's done that. That's his personality, and he's done that with players. Because even though you played with him, he's still the athletic director, and you kind of know, you have an idea of who he's going to be, And so I'm not going to really listen to him. And then all of a sudden you get there and he's talking to you, and it's not really anything about business. It's about, hey, you remember this, you remember that, and all of a sudden he's got you, because you're laughing with him, you're having fun with him. And I think he is really, I don't know a single player who I played with who is not engaged with him, and I don't know if there's players that he's not engaged with. He literally may be in touch with like every player for sure in every era that he possibly can. He's just that guy.
Well, he certainly made it fun, and it was a pleasure getting to know him. But we're going to have to take a commercial break. We're going to switch gears when we come back. We're going to talk about some West Virginia football, and we're bringing in our guest, Kevin Kinder from Blue Gold News. If you like what you see, you can check us out on YouTube, on Facebook, on Network West Virginia, iTunes, and our website at wvsportsconnection.com. Don't go away. We're coming back with Kevin.
But everything that you do, make it what you want.
This isn't just a beer. It's a lager. A medium-bodied, amber-colored, one-of-a-kind beer. Made from those bold enough to brew it, for those bold enough to drink it. Tap into your inner eagle. Yingling Traditional Lager. Spread your wings.
It's football season again, and Tony the Tailor has the perfect sportswear, outerwear, and footwear. Johnny O quarter zips and sports shirts, Bill's khakis, and boots from Allen Edmonds are what the smart people are wearing this season for game time and play time. We have a great selection in our downtown Charleston store, or shop at our new downtown Huntington location. Can't make it in? Shop online at bestmastertailor.com. Tony the Tailor, West Virginia's finest men's store.
West Virginia Sports Connection is brought to you by Subway, Development of West Virginia, Greg Hammond. With promotional consideration from Spriggs Distributing Company, Yingling Golden Pilsner, Hendrickson and Long, Riggs Commercial Realty, Angel Moore, Broker.
Welcome back to West Virginia Sports Connection. We are coming to you from Adelphia Sports Bar and Grill. And joining Carl and I right now is Kevin Kinder, the publisher of BlueGoldNews.com. Kevin, we go back a little ways. We're into each other on the sidelines from time to time. Welcome, my man.
Hey, always a pleasure to come down here to Adelphia, man. Great time.
Well, listen, I want to talk obviously about some West Virginia football. A couple weeks ago, Carl and I were talking. They really stubbed their toe, whatever you want to call it, against Iowa State. And we talked about, they went into the bye and how hard was it for the coaching staff to get that team back together. Well, it looks like they've done a pretty good job to this point.
I think a lot of that was the coaches really depend on a core of seniors, and I think you find that on any team, obviously, that's able to bounce back from adversity. This one really has a large group. It's like 12 to 15 guys, and they're all really good. They've got the team following them in lockstep, and they set the tone, they set the examples. I think that was a big help because obviously nobody played very well at Iowa State in that loss. To be able to come back, win that game, get back on track, I think that says a lot about that.
And oftentimes there's a guy that's a young guy who's looks to be a bright future, that seems to be the guy that wants to kind of carry the team eventually. Do you see that young guy who's that next potential guy that's going to step into the leadership that maybe wants to be in it now and is eager to get in it?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think a couple of the running backs, especially Letty Brown, the freshman, now he's obviously not there yet because he has a lot of upperclassmen in front of him, but I think he's the kind of guy that can pick you up. You want to see that from your quarterback. Obviously, quarterback's going to be a competition next year. Jack Allison's got a few snaps. I think you're starting to see that defensively. Darius Stills. And I know his younger brother Dante has gotten a little bit more of the publicity, a little bit higher rated kid. But Darius has come and really solidified the nose guard position. I think he's going to be a bellwether guy for West Virginia on defense. I think he's going to step into that role.
I've heard that this team, I was listening to when going up to the game, I was listening to the radio shows, and I heard Hoppy and all these other guys talking about they've never really seen, or for a long time, the type of leadership that this team has. And it kind of goes to what you were saying with the seniors. What are you seeing in terms of that leadership?
I think it really started when you had guys like Will Greer and David Sills decide to come back, and Yodny Kajust also. They all made that unilateral decision, and they got together and talked about it. They admitted, they weighed out the pros and cons. Are we going to come back, or is there anybody that wants to go pro? And I think when they did that, that kind of set that tone, and that made everyone else follow them along and say, wow, these guys believe we can do something special this year. And obviously it's all out there for them, and I'm sure we'll talk about the CFP and those other things in just a little bit. But actions speak louder than words, I think, in a lot of those situations. When they did that, that really set that leadership tone. So now when when they tell somebody, hey, you're not doing this right, let's pick this up, let's do that a little better, I think that carries a lot more weight.
And to that point also, one of the things I've been saying, I think Greer's a guy. I think he's a Sunday guy. I really think he has that ability. And we just saw Tom Brady get beat up. And so, we've seen Greer get beat up, and I'm like, every quarterback, when you get hit and you keep getting hit, you don't play well. But that's not how you judge a quarterback, because it's just not that way. So for people who thought like, oh, well, Greer didn't do well in that game, Greer, to me, I think is a major player, and I think he's got a shot. Now, I don't know what he'll do when he gets, but I think he is a guy who can play on Sunday.
It's going to be really interesting. I think his biggest strength is the schematic, the studying, the reading defenses, all those things. I think he's ahead of the game. Now, everybody obviously has things to learn when they get to the NFL, but I think with his background, his dad being a coach, he's done this. I don't think those things are just going to be an overwhelming shock to him. So I think he's going to be able to come in, digest an NFL playbook, and do that. He doesn't have the strongest arm of guys coming out, but it's strong enough to me. He can make those sideline throws. He can throw the deep out. He can obviously get the ball down the field. He puts air under the ball, and he can throw it on a rope when he needs to. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think a lot of that's going to key on getting in the right spot, the right place. Does he step right in and be a starter from day one? Probably not. But if he gets in a place with a good quarterback coach, one that he communicates with well, I think that's going to happen.
How far do you think this West Virginia team can go? I mean, they're obviously senior laden, and you look at the playoff picture right now, they're ninth. And all I've heard for the last week is Oklahoma, and I'm like, well, what if West Virginia beats Oklahoma? And then what if they beat them again?
Yeah.
Then are you going to start talking about West Virginia, or is it just because it's West Virginia?
I think there's a little bit of that in there, and I think you see that with some of the other teams like LSU, with them being number 6 with 2 losses drives me absolutely insane. But
SEC.
Sure. I think for either Oklahoma or West Virginia to get in, they've got to win out. If either one of those 2 teams wins out, then I think they have a chance. Now, do they pass people in front of them if all those other teams win out? Probably not. But if they get help, 1 or 2 spots, I could see West Virginia bypassing Washington State. Although that's going to be a really close comparison. LSU, I'm hoping people eventually come to their senses and realize, hey, you got 2 losses. I don't care who it was to. You got to get out. So, yeah, the CFP is there. Things have to break exactly right. To me, the big goal to shoot for, if you don't make the CFP, get in that New Year's Six Bowl. Play a Peach Bowl, around New Year's Day. Get a really good opponent there. That's the next step up for this program, is get into not a good bowl, but a great bowl, hopefully play well and win that one. That really, I think, is, the one step West Virginia's missing to get to that top tier.
Well, let me ask you this. Assuming that they get to that great bowl, is there a certainty of some of those guys who are thinking about Sunday showing up to play in that?
That's a great question.
I didn't even think about that.
Actually, we have already been having that discussion on our message boards. Somebody brought those up. In a lot of instances, and last year we saw it happen, in a lot of instances, that's a concern. I think with the guys, because they made that commitment to this team to come back this year and do that, I don't think the seniors will do it. Now, I haven't asked them that yet. To be honest, I don't think that's fair to ask them that question until you get to bowl game prep. But my sense is, no, they made the commitment to be here. I think that they will play it out.
And I was, when the first year that started to happen, I was like, I can't imagine.
We're old school, right?
Yeah. I couldn't imagine. But now, over time, now I get it. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I mean, the ability, the possibility of being set up for life over winning a bowl game, gosh, that's a tough decision for a player whose potential future could set his family up and those after that. How can I then say, well, you should play? That's a tough situation.
What about all these, I'm glad you said that, because what about these insurance policies? And the thing that brings it to mind really for me right now, being a Steeler fan, is Le'Veon Bell. What about these insurance policies? Can you take an insurance policy out for $50 million? Can you take, or do you just take it out for like $1 million or $2 million, or how? I don't even know how that works.
I've actually done a little research on that. That's a great question. You can get something reasonable and bank it against your future earnings, $2-3 million. Something on that higher end that, the premium would be so high that, I don't think that it would necessarily be worth it. That's a great point. I'm hoping the other thing to what you're talking about, Carl, is the level of the bowl.
Yeah.
If it's a small minor bowl, the impetus is more there. Hey, I'm not going to risk it. But man, if it's a New Year's Day one against a great opponent, I'm hoping that tips the scale.
All right, I'm going to have to cut you guys right there.
Oh, we could go.
Go to commercial. We'll come right back to that. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
You can do and you can say anything you want. Live your life and I'll live mine any way I want. You can have and you can take anything you want. But everything that you do, make it what you want. Anything you want. And I want. You can do and you can say anything you want. But everything that you do, make it what you want.
This isn't just a beer. It's a lager. A medium-bodied, amber-colored, one-of-a-kind beer. Made from those bold enough to brew it, for those bold enough to drink it. Tap into your inner eagle. Yingling Traditional Lager. Spread your wings.
It's football season again, and Tony the Tailor has the perfect sportswear, outerwear, and footwear. Johnny O quarter zips and sport shirts, Bill's khakis, and boots from Allen Edmonds are what the smart people are wearing this season for game time and playtime. We have a great selection in our downtown Charleston store, or shop at our new downtown Huntington location. Can't make it in? Shop online at bestmastertailor.com. Tony the Tailor, West Virginia's finest men's store.
West Virginia Sports Connection is brought to you by Subway, Development of West Virginia, Greg Hammond. With promotional consideration from Spriggs Distributing Company, Yingling Golden Pilsner, Hendrickson and Long, Riggs Commercial Realty, Angel Moore, broker.
Welcome back to West Virginia Sports Connection. We are coming to you from Adelphia Sports Bar and Grill, and we are talking when we went out of the break of what is it worth for a player who's a senior who can play on Sundays to maybe forego that bowl game. And I had to cut you off, and I apologize, but take it away.
So my question is, okay, so it could be a great bowl, it could be a great bowl, but for me in my head now, I'm thinking, who am I playing? Who's on that team? Is that team a quality team that's got some pro players that I want to play against? So if I'm a quarterback, I'm hoping that there's a couple defensive backs that are potentially pro guys that I can go against so that I can show them that I can play on that level. Would that make a difference? I mean, how do you view that?
No, I think that does factor into it. I think just about any team that you're going to play is going to be pretty good in that aspect, that you're going to have that name. The one outlier is whoever the group of 5 team is. And I don't think that's fair to them. I do think they get too much disrespect. I don't think UCF gets enough credit, although, there's an argument to be made against not putting them in. If you're going against UCF, whoever the top group of 5 is, that's the perception out there, though, that it's not as good. And hey, if West Virginia gets a shot at LSU, at Georgia again, at somebody else, and especially in the Peach Bowl where they're going to bring 20, 25,000 people. Yeah, I think all those things factor into it and make it better, but that's a good point. And that's really what it comes into, and these are still solid bowls, but if you've got to go to the Liberty Bowl or somewhere like that and it's 5th place team in another league, don't know. Yeah.
So you haven't had a chance to ask them, and you have a lot of interaction with these guys, but that's not a subject you broached yet. Or will
because
you even broach it?
I think we will once the regular season's over, and you're starting to get that idea. If you ask that right now, you're going to get the one game at a time thing, because if they say anything different, the coaches are going to be right down on them. So, and that's understandable. I don't blame them for that. But yeah, once the regular season is over and you've got an idea of where you're going, sure, yeah, those are great questions. Definitely legitimate to ask.
I found it, I was watching Dana Holgerson's press conference this week, and I found it really interesting to say they were asking him about the defense, and they were asking him specifically about David Long, and he said, I think he's the best linebacker in the country. I think he's good. I think he's real good. Is he the best linebacker in the country?
I'm going to say that the only guy to me that compares to him is Josh Allen from Kentucky, who's one of the Butkus semifinalists. David Long is not a Butkus semifinalist. I am a nominee person on that committee, and I nominated David Long, and obviously that didn't carry enough weight to get him in there. But I don't see anybody else that makes the plays that he does on a consistent basis, that does what he does on a consistent basis, avoiding blocks, getting off it. No matter how they try to scheme him out of the play, he gets back into it. I've not seen every game of every other player. So, just like everybody else, I'm running from a limited thing here, but I've seen a lot of players. And the only other one to me that compares to David is Josh Allen.
Have you seen David Long play much? As a defensive guy, what's your opinion?
Just a little bit, but here's what I think that's always an issue is that the bigger the school and the more publicity you get, the more likely you're a best player, And there's just a disrespect for a number of players who are not in that top tier of colleges based on money, based on notoriety, and all of that. I mean, there's not a kid supposed to come from Marshall and go into the NFL and play. And that's typically not going to happen. You look at a guy like Anthony Bass, who played in Minnesota. Who was going to say that this kid could play? So there's just not enough recognition or enough attention paid to players that play at different levels. Because there could be, look at Jerry Rice. You know what I'm saying? How did everybody miss that? You know what I'm saying? So I don't put a lot of fact into who's the best player or who, because look at the draft. We see first rounders don't make it, and we see sixth rounders become superstars. So there is no magic. So it's just about what you say, and So I'm not mad at him for saying it, but I think the truth will come out on Sunday.
Sure.
Do you think he's a Sunday player?
In the right scheme, yeah, I think he's got to be in a 3-4 scheme. In a 4-3, he's a little undersized. Now, that's not hurt him in college, and that may not hurt him in the pros. Nick Kwiatkowski at Chicago, for the Chicago players, is playing a middle linebacker. He was a safety in high school. So, I'm not going to say no, he can't do it. But I think he's better set up for success, if he's an inside guy in a 3-4 defense, or, he's an outside guy that they kind of turn loose and let him rush it. But, yeah, absolutely.
Could he move to safety?
I don't think the pass coverage skills are there. I think his mentality, for so long as this man, he's a straightforward, he's a go-ahead guy. I don't think he's got quite the quickness to do that. But, yeah, I do. And I think, going back to what you said about evaluating at different levels, the NFL's looking for certain kind of guys.
Yeah.
Some guys don't fit.
Yeah.
But if people pass on him because of his size, or because, like you said, a notoriety that he did or didn't get because he's at West Virginia, that's a mistake.
So he's a player. Well, listen, I want to talk about his coach, Dana Holgorsen. Not a lot of people, it's kind of happened, I don't want to say overnight. He's now the second winningest coach in WVU football history. I got to be honest, I follow the team, and I didn't see that one coming. I didn't know he was that close. He passed Rich Rod now, and he's got, Don in front of him.
A long way in front of it.
This year, a very long way. Do you see, especially if this winds up being one of those special seasons, and they somehow, some way get into the, football's Final Four. Does he stay at West Virginia? Does he move on to what is supposedly greener pastures? If you win in West Virginia, let's face it, you're a god. Nealon's a god. Bob Pruitt's a god. It's when you win here, then you're set.
And Rich learned that if you throw that away, it's, short-term riches can lead to long-term, no pun intended, can lead to, don't always work out that way. He has been up for some other jobs, at least contending for some other jobs. I don't think he's gotten an offer at a level, that he would consider leaving. And certainly there are programs that I think he would listen to and go. But the thing that strikes me is his progression. When he came here, he obviously didn't know a whole lot about being a head coach, and that was what led to the coach in waiting thing. Hey, be here a couple of years, learn how to do it. That didn't turn out the greatest, but his progression to me from when he started to now is huge. And that's not just wins and losses. It's learning how to manage the whole program. It's not just being involved in one thing. Obviously he's a really good coach. If you go down to the evaluation of your record is what you are, and let's just say it is. He's got great accomplishments. The only place where I think West Virginia fans would hope to see a little more success is in bowl games, because the bowl record hasn't been great.
Right. Well, let me ask this question. If you are a Rich Rod fan and you see Holgorsen pass him and you're really not a Holgorsen fan, is that part of the reason why this hasn't been just like a big deal? Like there has been no real true celebration, because there is this mix, both sides of that, of liking, don't like, and how would you account for that?
I think personality plays into that some. Rich was really an out there, a public figure, a guy like that. That's not Dana Holgorsen's personality. And I'm not saying he's unfriendly,
right? But
learning how to do those things, that's some of the things that he had to learn how to do. And I think you see that in his pressers and things like that. So yeah, I think that plays into it some. He was asked about passing a previous coach in the record, totally shut that down. So I think that played into it a little bit too.
All right, well, listen, Man, will you come back? We've run out of
sure.
time. Man,
Well, you
it's
get
a
Carl and
pleasure sitting here
be both
talking
on the
to
same
you.
thing, man. It's there's a ton of things to stop. Absolutely.
Well, listen, if you like what you see, you can check us out on YouTube, on Facebook, on Network West Virginia, on Apple iTunes, and don't forget our website at wvsportsconnection.com. And if you really like what you see, we're always looking for sponsors. You can contact us through our website at wvsportsconnection.com. We'll see you next time.